Hello friends, myself Savita Patil, Assistant Professor, Government Degree College, Kamalapur. Welcome to the today's session. In my today's class, we shall discuss the most important chapter, that is absorption and marginal cost. Contents of the chapter, that is in this chapter we shall discuss the introduction, chapter overview, definition, characteristics of marginal costing, determination of the cost and profit under marginal costing, distinction between absorption and marginal costing, contribution, BEP, make or buy decision, product mix and shutdown decisions. These are the various important things that we shall discuss in my today's class. Let us see. Before going to this, let us understand what is the marginal costing, meaning of marginal costing, and what is the absorption costing. All of you know, dear students, that is the marginal costing and the absorption costing are the two most important management techniques. These are the techniques which used to allocate. Why these are used? To allocate the cost for what purpose? To the products produced for their valuation. Each and every product should be calculated based on the techniques. That is, the techniques, the absorption and the marginal costing are the two important management techniques which are used to allocate the cost to product produced for their valuation. Marginal costing allocates variable costs individually to the products, and the fixed costs are treated as a period costs and deducted as an expense directly from the amount of contribution earned. Here, the three important things we have to understand, that is what is the fixed cost, variable cost and the contribution. What are the these things, how they are used? These are the three most important concepts which we have to understand under the marginal and the absorption costing, how they are treated separately for the each and in each and every concept. Okay. In absorption costing, fixed costs are allocated to the cost of the product as the overheads. This is what the some slight and the one of the difference between the marginal costing and the absorption costing. Let us know what we have understood. That is the here the first thing that we have to understand, that marginal costing and the absorption costing are the two most important cost management techniques. Okay, these are the techniques, and this is the first thing. Second one, what? That is, these are used for what purpose? To allocate the cost to the products. Okay, for produced for what purpose? For the valuation purpose. These are the techniques which are used to find out the products produced for their valuation purpose. Okay. Then the second most important is the marginal costing allocates. We have to remember that is variable costs individually to the products, and fixed costs are treated as a period costs and deducted as an expense directly from the amount of the contribution earned. This is what the introduction part of the marginal costing and the absorption costing. Okay. Now let us see an overview of this chapter. That is, here, that is what the marginal costing is there. In this, let us first understand the meaning of marginal cost and marginal costing, then the characteristics of marginal costings, first one, profit analysis, short-term decision making, break-even analysis, margin of safety, angle of incidence and the contribution ratios. These are the important few things we have to understand in this step. Now let us discuss the what is the definition of the marginal cost. Marginal cost is the cost of one additional unit of output. Okay, here we have to understand that cost is marginal cost is the what? The cost of one additional unit of the what? Output. Okay, then the concept is used to determine the optimum production quantity for a company where it costs the least amount to produce additional units. It is calculated by dividing the change in manufacturing costs by changing the quantity product. Here, now we can understand that a marginal costing is used for what purpose? To determine the optimum production quantity. Okay, and it costs the, why we have to study this, where we'll use means it costs the least amount. Okay, For what purpose? To produce any additional units. It is calculated. How it is calculated? By dividing the change in the manufacturing costs by the change in the quantity produced. Okay, this is what the sum. One of the most simple definition of the marginal cost, where we can understand why the marginal cost and where it should be used. Okay, now let us see the definition of the absorption cost. Absorption costing differs from the variable costing. Here, absorption costing differs from the variable costing because it allocates fixed overhead. We have to remember, students, here what? Here the absorption costing, what it said that differs from the variable costing. Why? Means it allocates the fixed overhead costs to each unit of a product produced in the period. Okay. Then absorption costing allocates fixed overhead costs to a product whether or not it was sold in the period. It's very important. We have to remember that absorption costing allocates. What allocates? It allocates the fixed overheads costs to a product. Okay. Whether or not it was sold, whether it is sold or not is immaterial, but it will be fixed. This is what the main important, the difference between the marginal costing and the absorption costing, where we can understand. Okay, this is what the product, whether or not it was sold in the period, the fixed overall cost will be fixed to a product. This is what the definition of the absorption. Now let us see what are the important characteristics of the marginal costing. Here we can, very important, these are the important characteristics. We can understand the marginal costing in detail, that is classification into fixed cost and variable cost. Very important. The first most important, that is the characteristics. What here? The marginal, we can see the, that is the classification of the costs into the fixed and the variable. This is one of the most important characteristics we can see under the marginal cost. Then next will be the what here? Determination of the price, that is for a particular production of particular unit, what will be the price? That will be the next thing. Then the after fixation of the price, we can see the what will be the profitability the manufacturer can earn. This is the third important definition. Then next will be the valuation of the stock. These are the most four important characteristics we can see under the marginal costing. Once again, I will explain you. That is in short. The first most important characteristics is the classification into fixed cost and variable cost. Then the determination of the price. Then the profitability. Then the valuation of stock. These are the important characteristics we can see under the marginal costing. Now, dear students, this is the most important, the part we have to remember, that we yourself and that is myself, that is for what, how the cost and profit should be ascertained under the, that is determination of the cost and profit under the marginal costing. Here it is the statement where we can understand in detail how it should be calculated. Okay. Now, first we have to see the production cost. Under that, what we have to consider? What are the direct materials, direct labor, and the direct expenses, variable manufacturing overheads. This we have to consider. This is what the A category. In this, the B will be the what, the product inventoriable costs we have to consider here. Add together. That is what here we have to. That is A. We have to deduct from the total A. We have to deduct total B. We got product contribution margin. A minus B will get. In this, what we have to do? Variable administration overheads and the variable selling and distribution overheads. We have to deduct it, and what will get? Contribution margin. So we will get the contribution margin. In this, the period cost we have to consider, fixed manufacturing expenses and the fixed non-manufacturing expenses. C minus D. If we do, we'll get the what here? Profit or loss. You can accept it. This is what the most simple, that is the statement. You can understand That is how the profit is, the cost and the profit should be calculated under the marginal cost. Let us see first. We have to see the product cost, that is the revenue under A. We will see these four: direct materials, direct labor, direct expenses, variable manufacturing costs. We have to consider. In this, we have to deduct the B, that is production contribution margin, variable administration overheads, and the variable selling and distribution. What we have to deduct? We'll get the contribution margin. See that from this we have to deduct the period cost, that is the fixed manufacturing expenses and the fixed non-manufacturing expenses. Ultimately, after doing all this, we'll get the profit or loss, that is the C minus D. Now, let us see the most important the part of this, that is the distinction between marginal costing and absorption costing. The distinctions in these two techniques are illustrated by the following. First, that is direct materials, direct labor, variable factory overhead, fixed factory overhead. Okay, here where we'll consider, that is the what are the various differentiation things we consider for the differentiation between the marginal costing and the absorption costing, which will discuss. The change to cost of goods produced, change that expenses goods are sold. All selling and administration overheads charged as expenses while income. Okay, here this is what the absorption costing approach. Here, that materials, direct labor, variable factory overheads changed to cost of goods produced, changed as expenses when goods are sold. This the light where the difference we have discussed in the my first and second PPT, that is while understanding the meaning and definition of the marginal costing and the absorption costing. Here, fixed factory overheads and all selling expenses and administration overheads are considered and the charged as expenses when incurred. This is what the things the various things we will consider for the distinction between the marginal costing and the absorption. Now let us understand the most important part, that is what is the contribution. Contribution is the difference between sales and the variable cost or marginal cost of sales. Can very easily understand that contribution is equal to what? Sales minus variable cost. Okay. It may be also defined as the excess of selling price over variable cost per unit. Contribution is also known as contribution margin or gross margin. Contribution being the excess of sales over variable cost is the amount that is contributed towards fixed expenses and the profit. This is what the simple meaning of the contribution. Now, let us see the important formulas which are very essential for the calculation of the contribution. Okay. Contribution is equal to sales minus variable cost, which we have discussed in my previous slide. While understanding the meaning of the contribution, the next will be the contribution per unit is equal to selling price minus variable cost. Then the contribution is equal to fixed cost per profit minus loss. These are the important formulas which we will use for the calculation of the contribution as per the information available in our problem. Okay. Now let us see what are the important equations. Sales minus variable cost is equal to contribution. Sales is equal to variable cost plus contribution. Sales is equal to variable cost plus fixed cost plus or minus profit or loss. Whatever will be the given, we have to consider in this. Then the sales minus variable cost is equal to fixed cost, profit or loss. Profit is then add and the loss is then we have to deduct. These are the some important formulas we will consider for the calculation of the contribution. Okay. Yes, students, in my today's class, we have discussed the basic concepts of the meaning and definition of the marginal costing, absorption costing, and the difference between the marginal costing and the absorption costing, and the contribution, the meaning of the contribution, as well as what are the important formulas and the equations which are used for the calculation of the contribution. Okay. Now, next part we shall continue in the next video. Thank you very much. If you liked my explanation, please do not subscribe my channel. Thank you.